I'm Emily, and I've been married to my husband Mark for 18 years. We have a daughter, Rebecca, who is 16 years old. Mark and I have always had a good relationship, but recently we've hit a rough patch over Rebecca's education. I grew up in a family that valued education highly. My parents were both teachers at the local high school. My mom taught English, and my dad taught math. They always encouraged me and my siblings to pursue our dreams and get a good education. I have two older brothers, one became a doctor, and the other is a university professor. I ended up getting a degree in computer engineering and now work for a big tech company. Mark, on the other hand, comes from a family of entrepreneurs. His parents, Tom and Sarah, started with a single small grocery store when they were in their early 20s. Over the years, they expanded it into a successful chain of local grocery stores. Mark has been working in the family business since he was a teenager, starting by stocking shelves and working the cash register. He gradually took on more responsibility and now manages several of the stores. When Rebecca was born, Mark and I agreed that we would support her in whatever path she chose. We both wanted her to have the freedom to pursue her passions, whether that meant going to college or starting her own business. As Rebecca grew up, she showed a strong interest in science and technology. She's always been curious about how things work and loves to tinker with gadgets. I remember when Rebecca was about 8 years old, she took apart our old desktop computer because she wanted to see what was inside. Mark was initially upset, thinking she had broken it, but I was impressed by her curiosity. We ended up turning it into a learning opportunity, and I taught her about the different components of a computer. From that point on, her interest in technology only grew. Throughout her school years, Rebecca has excelled in math and science classes. She joined the robotics club in middle school and has been a key member of her high school's coding team. Last year, she even won a regional science fair with a project on artificial intelligence. I've been thrilled to see her develop these interests, as they align closely with my own passions. I've been taking her to women in tech events and encouraging her to explore different areas of computer science. Mark has always been supportive of these activities, often bragging to his friends about how smart Rebecca is. For the past year, Rebecca has been talking about wanting to study computer science in college. She's been taking coding classes online and even started a small tech club at her high school. I've been fully supportive of her ambitions and have been helping her research top computer science programs. The problem started last week when Mark and I were discussing Rebecca's future plans. We were sitting in our kitchen after dinner, and I mentioned that we should start looking at college applications soon, as many deadlines are coming up in the fall. To my surprise, Mark seemed hesitant about the idea of Rebecca going to college. He said that he thought it might be better for her to join the family business after high school instead. I was shocked by Mark's suggestion. We had never discussed this before, and it seemed completely out of line with our previous agreements about supporting Rebecca's choices. When I pressed him on it, Mark explained that he had been thinking about it for a while. He said that the family business was doing well and that there would be great opportunities for Rebecca if she joined right after high school. He argued that she could learn more practical skills by working in the business than she would in college. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It felt like Mark was trying to derail Rebecca's dreams for his own benefit. I told him that Rebecca had shown no interest in the family business, and that it would be unfair to pressure her into that path. Mark got defensive and said that I was being too pushy about college. He accused me of trying to live vicariously through Rebecca and not considering other options for her future. Our discussion quickly turned into an argument. I told Mark that he was being selfish and short-sighted. I reminded him of all the times he had praised Rebecca's tech skills and how proud he seemed of her accomplishments. I asked him why he suddenly thought the family business was a better option than college. Mark countered by saying that I was elitist and looking down on his family's business. He said that not everyone needs a college degree to be successful and that there was nothing wrong with Rebecca joining the family business. He brought up his own experience, saying that he had learned more from working in the stores than he ever would have in a classroom. We both said things we shouldn't have. I accused him of trying to hold Rebecca back, and he said I was trying to push her away from the family. The argument ended with Mark storming out of the house, saying he needed some air. Since then, things have been tense between us. We've barely spoken except about necessary household matters. Rebecca has noticed the tension and keeps asking what's wrong, but we've both been trying to shield her from our disagreement. I'm at a loss for what to do. I feel like Mark is trying to sabotage Rebecca's future for his own gain. At the same time, I'm worried that pushing too hard for college might drive a wedge between Rebecca and her father. I don't want to turn this into a situation where Rebecca feels she has to choose between us. I've considered talking to Rebecca about the situation, but I'm not sure if that's the right move. She's still young and I don't want to burden her with our marital problems. On the other hand, this directly affects her future and I feel like she should have a say. I'm also worried about the long-term implications for my marriage. Mark and I have always been a team when it comes to parenting, but this feels like a fundamental disagreement about our values and priorities. I'm scared that if we can't resolve this, it might lead to bigger problems down the line. This isn't the first time Mark and I have disagreed about parenting, but it's definitely the most serious. When Rebecca was younger, we had some arguments about how much screen time she should have. I wanted to encourage her interest in technology, while Mark thought she should spend more time outdoors. We eventually compromised by setting specific tech times and making sure Rebecca also participated in outdoor activities. We also had some disagreements about education when Rebecca was in elementary school. I wanted to enroll her in a private school known for its strong STEM program, but Mark thought it was too expensive and preferred the local public school. We ended up keeping her in public school but supplementing her education with after-school science and math programs. But those disagreements were nothing compared to this. This feels like a fundamental difference in how we see Rebecca's future, and I'm not sure how to bridge that gap. I've thought about reaching out to Mark's parents to see if they can talk some sense into him, but I'm worried that might just make things worse. They've always been supportive of education in the past, they even helped pay for Mark's younger sister to go to college. But I'm not sure where they stand on this issue. What if they agree with Mark and think Rebecca should join the family business? I've also considered suggesting family counseling, but I'm not sure if Mark would be open to that idea. He's never been big on talking about feelings or seeking outside help for our problems. The one time I suggested couples counseling a few years ago, after a particularly bad fight about finances, he dismissed the idea, saying we could work things out on our own. For now, I'm trying to give Mark some space to cool down, but I know we'll have to address this issue soon. Rebecca will need to start working on college applications in the next few months if that's the path she wants to pursue. I feel torn between my desire to support my daughter's dreams and my need to maintain a strong relationship with my husband. I don't want to be the kind of parent who forces their child into a particular path, but I also don't want to stand by and watch while Mark tries to steer Rebecca away from her passions. I keep thinking about my own parents and how they would handle this situation. They were always so supportive of my educational choices, even when I decided to switch majors in college from biology to computer engineering. I want to give Rebecca that same support, but I'm realizing that co-parenting is much more complicated than I ever imagined. I'm also worried about how this might affect Rebecca's relationship with her grandparents. She's always been close to Mark's parents, spending summers working in their stores and learning about the business. What if they start pressuring her to join the family business too? I don't want Rebecca to feel like she's disappointing anyone by pursuing her own dreams. I've been trying to keep things normal for Rebecca's sake, but it's getting harder. Last night, she asked me to help her with a coding project, and all I could think about was whether she'd ever get the chance to use these skills if Mark gets his way. I helped her with the project, of course, but it was hard to focus. I'm writing this post because I need some outside perspective. Am I overreacting to Mark's suggestion? Should I be more open to the idea of Rebecca joining the family business? Or am I right to stand firm on supporting Rebecca's college ambitions? How can I navigate this situation without damaging my relationship with either my husband or my daughter? Any advice would be greatly appreciated. I feel like I'm at a crossroads and I'm not sure which way to turn. Update when it's been 2 weeks since my last post, and a lot has happened. I want to thank everyone who took the time to respond and offer advice. Your comments gave me a lot to think about and helped me approach the situation with a clearer head. After giving Mark a few days to cool down, I decided to sit down with him and have a calm, honest conversation about Rebecca's future. I made sure to choose a time when we were both relaxed and Rebecca was out of the house. I suggested we go for a walk in the park where we used to take Rebecca when she was little, thinking the familiar setting might help ease the tension between us. As we walked, I started by apologizing for some of the harsh things I said during our argument. I explained that I reacted strongly because I felt like he was trying to take away Rebecca's choices. Mark seemed to appreciate my apology and admitted that he could have approached the subject better. As we talked, Mark revealed something that shocked me. It turns out that the family business has been struggling financially for the past year. The chain of grocery stores has been losing market share to big supermarket chains and online delivery services. Mark's parents have been considering selling the business, but they're worried about what that would mean for all the employees who have been with them for years. Mark explained that he had hoped Rebecca might be interested in joining the business and helping to modernize it. He thought that with her tech skills, she might be able to help them compete in the digital marketplace. He hadn't told me about the business troubles because he was embarrassed and didn't want me to worry. I was stunned by this revelation. It explained so much about Mark's sudden change of heart regarding Rebecca's education. I felt terrible for not realizing that something was bothering him. At the same time, I was hurt that he hadn't confided in me sooner. We spent hours talking about the situation. Mark opened up about the stress he's been under trying to keep the business afloat. He talked about late nights poring over financial reports, trying to figure out how to cut costs without laying off employees. He mentioned conversations with his parents where they discussed possibly having to sell their house to keep the business running. I told Mark that while I understood his concerns, it wasn't fair to put that burden on Rebecca. She's just a teenager and shouldn't be responsible for saving the family business. Mark agreed but said he was scared about what would happen if the business failed. He worried about his parents' retirement, about the employees who depended on their jobs, and about his own future if the business went under. We talked about Mark's own experiences growing up in the family business. He shared stories I'd never heard before, about how proud he felt the first time his dad trusted him to close up the store on his own, or how he bonded with his mom over early morning inventory counts. I began to understand why the idea of Rebecca joining the business meant so much to him. After a lot of discussion, we came to an agreement. We decided that we would be honest with Rebecca about the situation with the family business, but we would make it clear that she's under no obligation to help. We would support her in pursuing her college dreams if that's what she wants. The next day, we sat down with Rebecca and explained everything. She was surprised to hear about the business troubles but seemed relieved that we were being open with her. She told us that while she loves her grandparents and appreciates the family business, her passion is really in computer science and she wants to go to college. However, Rebecca also came up with an idea that none of us had considered. She suggested that she could help create a website and online ordering system for the grocery stores over the summer. This would give her some real-world experience in web development and potentially help the family business without derailing her college plans. Mark was touched by Rebecca's offer and seemed to realize that supporting her education didn't mean she was abandoning the family. We all agreed that this could be a great compromise. Over the next few days, Rebecca started working on plans for the website. She's been so excited, spending hours researching e-commerce platforms and user interface design. Mark has been working closely with her, explaining the business side of things and helping her understand what features would be most useful for their customers. Watching them work together has been wonderful. I can see how proud Mark is of Rebecca's skills, and Rebecca seems to be enjoying the chance to apply her knowledge to a real-world problem. It's given them a new way to bond, and I'm grateful for that. For now, things seem to be back on track. Mark and I are communicating better, and Rebecca is excited about both her summer project and her college prospects. However, I can't shake the feeling that there might be more surprises ahead. The situation with the family business is still precarious, and I'm worried about how that might affect our family dynamics in the future. I'm also a bit concerned about how involved Rebecca should get with the family business. While I'm proud of her for wanting to help, I don't want her to feel responsible for its success or failure. It's a delicate balance, and I'm not sure how to navigate it. Additionally, I'm worried about Mark's parents. They don't know that we've told Rebecca about the business troubles, and I'm not sure how they'll react. They've always been very private about financial matters, and I'm concerned they might be upset that we involved Rebecca. I've been thinking about my own parents' reaction to all of this. They've always been skeptical of the stability of small businesses, preferring the security of steady jobs like teaching. I wonder what they would say if they knew about the current situation. Part of me wants to talk to them about it, but I know Mark would see that as a betrayal of his trust. There's also the question of what this means for our long-term financial planning. We've been saving for Rebecca's college education since she was born, but if the family business fails, we might need to dip into those savings. I'm trying not to worry Rebecca with these concerns, but it's always in the back of my mind. For now, I'm trying to take things one day at a time. I'm grateful that Mark and I were able to work through this issue, but I know we still have challenges ahead. I'm going to keep encouraging open communication in our family and hope that we can face whatever comes next as a united front. Thank you again to everyone who offered advice. Your support has been invaluable during this difficult time. I'll update again if there are any significant developments. Update 2: I didn't expect to be writing another update so soon, but a lot has happened in the past 3 months and I need to get it off my chest. Rebecca spent the summer working on the website and online ordering system for the family grocery stores. She did an amazing job and the new system has actually helped increase sales. Mark's parents were thrilled with her work and have been singing her praises to anyone who will listen. At first, everything seemed great. Rebecca was proud of her accomplishment and excited about starting her college applications. Mark and I were getting along better than ever, united in our pride for our daughter. But then things took an unexpected turn. About a month ago, Mark's parents invited us all over for dinner. They said they had something important to discuss. When we arrived, they dropped a bombshell on us. They announced that they had decided not to sell the business after all. Instead, They wanted to start grooming Rebecca to take over the company in the future. They proposed that Rebecca should skip college and start working full-time in the business immediately after high school graduation. I was stunned. I looked at Mark, expecting him to shut down the idea immediately, but to my horror, he seemed to be considering it. He started talking about how well Rebecca had done with the website and how she had a natural talent for business. Rebecca looked uncomfortable and said she still wanted to go to college. Mark's parents brushed off her concerns, saying she could always go to college later if she wanted to. They even offered to set up a trust fund for her if she agreed to join the business full-time. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It felt like everyone had lost their minds. I spoke up and reminded everyone that we had agreed to support Rebecca's college plans. Mark's parents looked annoyed and said I was being selfish, trying to push Rebecca away from the family. The dinner devolved into an argument. Rebecca ended up in tears and ran out of the house. I went after her while Mark stayed behind to talk to his parents. When we got home, Rebecca told me she felt trapped and pressured. She said she loved her grandparents but didn't want to give up her dreams of studying computer science. I assured her that she didn't have to do anything she didn't want to do. Later that night, Mark and I had a huge fight. He accused me of turning Rebecca against the family business. I couldn't believe he was taking his parents' side after everything we had discussed. It felt like we were right back where we started 3 months ago. The past month has been tense. Mark's parents have been calling Rebecca constantly, trying to persuade her to reconsider. They've even started showing up at her school events, cornering her to talk about the business. Mark has been distant and moody, spending more time at the stores and less time at home. Rebecca is stressed and confused, torn between her own desires and the pressure from her father and grandparents. Her grades have started to slip, and she's been having trouble sleeping. I've tried to shield her from the conflict, but it's been difficult. I've been doing my best to support Rebecca in her college applications. We've been visiting campuses on weekends, and I've been helping her with her essays. But every time we make progress, something happens to set us back. Last week, Mark's parents offered to buy Rebecca a car if she agreed to work in the store part-time during her senior year. It feels like they're trying to bribe her into giving up her dreams. I feel betrayed by Mark. I thought we were on the same page about supporting Rebecca's choices, but now it seems like he's reverted to prioritizing the family business over our daughter's happiness. When I try to talk to him about it, he shuts down or gets defensive. I'm also angry at Mark's parents for putting this pressure on Rebecca. It feels manipulative and unfair. They're using guilt and money to try to control her future. I've tried to talk to them, to explain how their actions are affecting Rebecca, but they won't listen. They keep insisting that they know what's best for her. The whole situation has started to affect other areas of our lives. Mark and I barely talk anymore, except to argue about Rebecca's future. We haven't been on a date night in months. I've started sleeping in the guest room because I can't stand the tension when we're in the same bed. Rebecca has stopped inviting friends over, embarrassed by the constant family drama. She's withdrawn from some of her extracurricular activities, saying she needs more time to work on college applications. But I worry that she's isolating herself. I've thought about reaching out to my own parents for advice, but I'm hesitant to involve them. They've never fully approved of Mark's family's focus on the business, and I'm afraid their input might just make things worse. I've also considered suggesting family therapy, but Mark refuses to even discuss it. He says we don't need outsiders meddling in our family business. But I'm starting to feel like we're in over our heads and could use some professional help. I'm at a loss for what to do next. I want to support Rebecca in pursuing her dreams, but I'm worried about the long-term consequences for our family relationships. Should I stand firm and risk alienating Mark and his family? Or should I try to find some kind of compromise, even if it means Rebecca might have to give up her college plans? Part of me wonders if I should encourage Rebecca to apply to local colleges, so she could potentially help with the business while still getting an education. But another part of me feels like that would be giving in to the pressure and potentially limiting her opportunities. I've also thought about looking for job opportunities for Rebecca in tech companies, to show Mark and his parents that there are other paths to success besides the family business. But I'm worried that might just escalate the conflict. Any advice would be appreciated. I feel like I'm fighting a losing battle and I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. How do I protect my daughter's future without destroying our family in the process? Update 3. It's been 6 months since my last update, and I'm writing this with a heavy heart. A lot has changed in our family, and not for the better. Despite all the pressure from Mark and his parents, Rebecca decided to stick to her plan of going to college. She applied to several top computer science programs and was accepted to her dream school. I was incredibly proud of her for standing her ground and pursuing her passion. However, the fallout from her decision has been severe. Mark's parents were furious when Rebecca announced her college plans. They accused me of brainwashing her and turning her against the family. They even went so far as to threaten to cut Rebecca out of their will if she didn't reconsider. Mark sided with his parents. He told Rebecca that she was being selfish and ungrateful. The argument that ensued was ugly. Rebecca ended up locking herself in her room and refusing to speak to her father for days. The situation at home became unbearable. Mark and I were constantly fighting, and Rebecca was caught in the middle. It got to the point where I couldn't recognize the man I had married. The loving, supportive partner I thought I had was replaced by someone obsessed with a family business and his parents' approval. After weeks of tension and arguments, I made a difficult decision. I told Mark that Rebecca and I would be moving out. I couldn't stay in an environment that was so toxic for our daughter. Mark didn't try to stop us. In fact, he barely reacted at all, which hurt more than if he had gotten angry. Rebecca and I found a small apartment near her new college. It's been a tough adjustment, but we're managing. I had to dip into our savings to cover the security deposit and first month's rent, which has been stressful. I'm working extra hours to make sure we can afford the new place without touching Rebecca's college fund. Rebecca started her freshman year last month and she's thriving in her classes. She's made new friends in her dorm and joined the college's robotics club. Seeing her excited about her studies reminds me that we made the right choice, despite the high cost. Mark and I are now separated. We've had minimal contact over the past few months, mostly just to discuss practical matters related to Rebecca. His parents have cut off all communication with both of us. They didn't even send Rebecca a card for her 18th birthday last week. The hardest part has been watching Rebecca deal with the loss of her relationship with her father and grandparents. She tries to put on a brave face, but I know she's hurting. There are nights when I hear her crying in her room, and it breaks my heart. I've suggested that she try to reach out to Mark, but she's still too angry and hurt by his behavior. As for me, I'm trying to rebuild my life. I've thrown myself into my work and started seeing a therapist to deal with the emotional fallout of the past year. Some days are harder than others, but I'm slowly healing. I've reconnected with some old friends who have been incredibly supportive during this difficult time. I've also started volunteering at a local organization that helps underprivileged kids learn coding. It's been a good distraction and a way to feel like I'm making a positive impact, even as my personal life feels like it's falling apart. I never imagined that our family would fall apart like this. Part of me still hopes that Mark will come to his senses and realize what he's lost. But another part of me knows that even if he did, things could never go back to the way they were before. The family business, which was the source of all this conflict, is still struggling. I heard through a mutual friend that Mark's parents have had to close 2 of their stores. I feel bad for the employees who lost their jobs, but I can't help feeling a bit of bitter satisfaction that the business wasn't worth destroying our family over. For now, I'm focusing on supporting Rebecca and taking care of myself. The future is uncertain, but I'm trying to stay positive. If nothing else, this experience has shown me how strong Rebecca and I can be when we stand together. Thank you to everyone who has followed my story and offered support along the way. Your kindness has meant more than you know during this difficult time. If there's one piece of advice I can offer to others, it's this: stand firm in your convictions, especially when it comes to your children's future. The cost may be high, but staying true to yourself and supporting